So before we talk about what could happen and potential solutions, you mentioned dead pool. So last year, the director of the Arizona Department of Water, right, mentioned, or you had heard that that he had said in private that he had used the term dead pool. And at first, nobody wanted to talk about that. Nobody wanted to confirm that. But that went pretty quickly from, no, we're not going to talk about that, to that term being pretty broadly used and understood. So could you first talk about what dead pool means, and then how did that transition happen so quickly?
Well, okay, we'll start with what dead pool means. When the reservoirs get to dead pool, that means they're so low that the whole infrastructure they built to get the water out of the reservoirs back into the river again, so they can no longer can function. Like at Lake-Powell, the water goes through penstocks when the penstocks lead to the turbines that generate the power. But when the water gets below 3,490 feet, it can't go through the penstocks anymore. It's too low, and it starts going through these little outlet tubes on the sides of the reservoir, and the outlet tubes are low enough they can carry some of them, but they don't have the capacity to carry all of them, all of the water. And eventually it gets so low that the system can't get anything through. And the same, really, I don't know the details of Hoover Dam, but it basically works the same. And in terms of the discussion, what happened is that the ADWR director, Tom Bushatsky, told I would call a closed door conference. You know, it was a water lawyers conference run by, private industry type water lawyers, and you'd have to pay hundreds of dollars to get into the conference, which is not usually the case with water conferences. They want you to come in, and he started issuing these warnings in August of 2021 that if something isn't done, Lake-Powell and Mead could hit dead pool in a very uncomfortable period of time. And I called ADWR. They would not confirm or deny or comment on these. There were published reports about it in little trade journals, And so I called other people who were there, and a couple others did confirm it. And so we were able to go with the story. But you're asking me how it changed from that a year and a few months ago to now, is that the situation just kept getting worse. We had another winter that was where the runoff was, I think, 62% of normal, whatever. It was significantly below normal. And so now the reservoirs, like lake-mead was, lake-mead had been at 1075 at the end of last year, or maybe a little lower, but by the middle of this year, it was in the 1060s, 1050s, 1040s. By the end of the year, Powell was at 3525, early in the year, but then it went down below that, and it was getting dangerously close to that level where it wasn't going to generate power. And then, out of nowhere, the Bureau of Reclamation started waving the alarm bells, and they told the states they've got to cut, several million acre feet of water of use. They got to really start hammering at them. And that's when the dead pool thing started coming out. There were more and more projections showing how and when the lake could hit dead pool. And then the climax just happened this last month when the Bureau released some projections that showed if we have another 5 years, like in the first 5 years of this century, if it's as dry as that again, both reservoirs could hit dead pool within the next few years.